They thought she was just the maid's daughter. She wasn't even supposed to touch the chessboard. But 3 hours later, a 16-year-old national champion was speechless, and a billionaire had tears in his eyes. Because when she whispered checkmate, she didn't just win the game. She revealed the truth no one saw coming. The first time Lila Ortiz stepped into the home of billionaire Graham Whitaker, it was only supposed to be another cleaning job. She brought her daughter, 8-year-old Lila, along because the babysitter had canceled last minute. The mansion on Bellwood Hill stood like a castle from a fairy tale, all white columns and ivy-covered walls, with a fountain in the center that glittered in the late morning sun. Lila pressed her nose against the car window, wide-eyed. "It looks like a palace, Mama." "Don't touch anything, okay?" Evelyn whispered, smoothing down Lila's curly hair. "Stay quiet. We won't be long." Inside, the marble floors gleamed like mirrors, and chandeliers hung from ceilings too high to see. Lila tiptoed beside her mother, careful not to let her sneakers squeak. They passed through a long hallway and into a massive library filled with floor-to-ceiling books. And right in the center of the room, on a polished table under a shaft of sunlight, sat something that made Lila freeze. A chess set, but not just any chess set. Each piece looked handcrafted. Tiny knights with silver armor, a marble queen with a golden crown, pawns lined up like the silent army. The board shimmered like glass. She'd seen plastic ones at school, but this looked like treasure. Lila didn't touch. She only stared, her math workbook forgotten in her backpack. But her fascination didn't go unnoticed. "You like chess?" The voice startled her so much she nearly dropped her pencil. A tall man with graying hair and sharp blue eyes stood in the doorway. He wore a tailored vest and tie, but his smile was surprisingly kind. I wasn't touching anything," Lila stammered. "That wasn't my question," Graham said gently. "I asked if you liked chess." "I don't really know how to play," she admitted. "My teacher showed us the pieces once, that's all." At that moment, Evelyn returned, her face going pale at the sight. "Mr. Whitaker, I'm so sorry. She won't bother you again." "She's not bothering me at all," Graham said, waving her off. His gaze stayed on Lila. "Actually, would you like me to teach you? Just for fun." Lila looked at her mom, unsure. Evelyn hesitated. "Mr. Whitaker, you don't have to." "I want to," he said firmly. Then more softly, "This house gets quiet. It would be nice to have someone to play with." Lila's eyes sparkled. "Really?" "Really," Graham nodded, already pulling out a chair. "Let's start with how the pawns move." And just like that, a quiet little girl sat at a golden chessboard, completely unaware that her first move would start a game far bigger than anyone could imagine. Lila returned the next afternoon, barely able to sit still during class. Her math problems blurred into chessboards, and the fractions on her paper looked like night paths waiting to be discovered. She wasn't sure why Mr. Whitaker, this rich, important man, had taken an interest in teaching her chess, but she couldn't stop thinking about it. Every move he showed her yesterday felt like unlocking a secret code. When Evelyn picked her up from school, Lila jumped into the car. "Can we go to the mansion now?" Evelyn hesitated. "Mr. Whitaker might be busy today." "But he said same time tomorrow," Lila reminded her. "Please, Mama." Evelyn finally nodded, but her grip on the steering wheel was tight. "Just remember what I said. Be polite. Don't expect too much. People like him, they don't always keep their promises." But Mr. Whitaker was waiting in the library, dressed more casually this time, sleeves rolled up. The chess set had already been arranged. "Good afternoon, Lila," he greeted her warmly. "Ready for round 2? She grinned and nodded. This time, something different happened. Lila didn't just remember the rules, she saw them. Her bishop moved with purpose, her knights leaped into strong positions, and when Mr. Whitaker made a clever move, she countered with one of her own. He smiled more than once during the game, leaning back with a quiet as if he were solving a mystery. "Excellent," he said after she put his king in check for the second time. "You're thinking ahead now, like you're seeing the board from above." "It's like a story," Lila said thoughtfully. "Every piece wants something. The pawns are trying to grow up. The knights are guarding the queen." Graham stared at her. "Have you been practicing?" "No, sir. We don't have a chessboard at home. But I think about the game before I fall asleep. It's like the pieces talk to me in my head. He sat very still. Do you dream about chess? Lila nodded. Last night I dreamed the pieces were dancing, like they had rules only they understood. The queen moved like music. Evelyn had been silently dusting the bookshelves nearby. At Lila's words, she dropped the cloth she was holding. Both Lila and Graham turned toward her. Evelyn quickly picked it up and turned away. Graham's voice dropped. Lila, what do you dream about besides chess? She paused, her voice soft. Sometimes I dream I have a dad. We play games and he teaches me things. He has gray hair and kind eyes. He looks sort of like you. Silence fell over the room like a heavy curtain. Graham's hands trembled as he adjusted a rook on the board, then stood abruptly. We'll stop here for today. Same time tomorrow? Yes, sir, Lila said, confused by the sudden change in tone. As Evelyn led her daughter out of the house, she noticed Graham watching them from the window, his face full of something Lila couldn't quite name. Sadness? Regret? That night, Lila woke up thirsty and padded into the kitchen. Her mother sat at the table holding a worn shoebox. She quickly closed it when Lila entered. What's that, Mama? Nothing, just old pictures. Go back to bed, baby. But Lila had seen the photo on top, her mother much younger standing beside a man with gray hair and blue eyes. A man who looked exactly like Mr. Graham Whitaker. The next morning, Lila couldn't concentrate at school. She kept wondering, why did Mr. Whitaker look like the man in her mother's photo? Why did he stare at her like he knew something she didn't? And why did her dreams feel like memories? Something was happening, something that had nothing to do with chess, but everything to do with who she really was. By the end of the second week, Lila was no longer just learning chess. She was living it. Each afternoon after school, she'd meet Graham Whitaker in the Grand Library, and the two would sit across the golden chessboard like old friends. Except now, Lila was winning. It started subtly. She'd capture more pieces. Then she'd set small traps. By day 15, something unthinkable happened. Checkmate, Lila whispered, staring at the board in surprise. Graham leaned back slowly. Well, he said with a soft chuckle. That was beautifully played. I won? Her voice wavered between disbelief and delight. You did, and not by accident. You planned that 4 moves ago. I saw the trap, but only when it was too late. Lila's eyes sparkled, her cheeks flushed with pride. Can we play again? Of course. They played 3 more games that afternoon. Lila won 2. After they left, Graham remained in the library, staring at the pieces. Then he picked up his phone and dialed on. Dr. Elise Hahn, it's Graham Whitaker. I need you to come to my home tomorrow. There was a pause on the other end. There's a child I want you to meet. She's not just good at chess, she's extraordinary. Meanwhile, across town, Lila helped her mother make dinner in their small kitchen. She chatted about strategies, openings, and endgames. But Evelyn was distracted. Her smile was tight, her eyes distant. Later that night, Lila woke up for a glass of water and found her mother at the kitchen table again. The same shoebox rested in front of her. This time, Evelyn didn't notice her daughter approaching. Mama? Lila whispered. Evelyn jumped, quickly shoving the lid on the box. Who was that man in the photo with you? Lila asked softly. He looked like... There was no man, Evelyn said quickly. You're imagining things. But Lila knew what she had seen. The man in the photo had gray hair, kind blue eyes, and a familiar smile. The same one that looked across the chessboard from her every day. The next afternoon, Lila walked into the mansion to find not just Graham, but also a new face in the library. A petite woman in a navy suit with sharp eyes and short jet black hair. She carried a leather briefcase in a posture that didn't bend for anyone. Lila, Graham said, this is Dr. Elise Hahn. She's a chess coach, one of the best in the country. Dr. Hahn extended a hand. Hello, Lila. I've heard you're quite the player. Lila shook her hand, nervous but curious. I just like the game. Would you like to play with me? Lila looked at Mr. Whitaker, who gave her a gentle nod. Okay, she said. Dr. Hahn set up the pieces swiftly, her movements practiced, flawless. I'll play white, she said. You can go first. Lila opened with her favorite, King's Pawn, forward 2 squares. Classic and simple. At first, Dr. Hahn looked relaxed, half-focused, expecting to entertain a child. But within 10 moves, her brow furrowed. Within 20, she sat up straighter. Lila's pieces moved like dancers across the board, her bishops slicing angles, knights protecting each other like loyal guards, pawns weaving intricate traps. Dr. Han realized she wasn't entertaining a child. She was fighting for survival. "Check," Lila said softly. Dr. Han moved her king, but 10 moves later, checkmate. Silence. Dr. Han leaned back in her chair, staring at the board like it had betrayed her. That was incredible. "Did I do something wrong?" Lila asked, suddenly unsure. "No," Dr. Han said, standing slowly. "You did something very right." She opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick book filled with chess puzzles, some so complex even top-level players struggled with them. She pointed to the first. "Can you solve this one?" Lila looked for less than a minute. "The knight goes here, then the rook has no escape." Dr. Han blinked. "Correct. The next puzzle. 30 seconds. Solved. Another. Solved." Dr. Han turned to Graham. "May I speak with you in private?" They moved to the far corner of the room, whispering. Lila pretended not to listen, but her ears strained. "This child," Dr. Han said, "is unlike anything I've seen in my career." "Is it really that rare?" "Graham," she said, "she's not just talented, she's gifted. Once in a generation gifted. With proper training, she could compete at the international level, possibly become a world champion." Graham's voice was low. "She's 8. The best always start young." Evelyn, who had returned to the room quietly, stood in the doorway. Her knuckles were white around the handle of the cleaning cart. "I don't want her pressured," she said, her voice trembling. "She's just a little girl." "She's also a prodigy," Dr. Han said gently. "This isn't about pressure, it's about recognizing something rare and giving it a chance to grow." Lila, sitting alone at the chessboard, stared at the pieces, her mother, Mr. Whitaker, Dr. Han, all of them whispering about a future she didn't understand. All she knew was that chess made her feel alive. But something bigger was happening now. Something that had nothing to do with kings and pawns. Something about her Patmahimam and the identity she had never been told. The night before the tournament finals, the hotel room was unusually quiet. Lila had fallen asleep still wearing her medal, curled up in bed with her tiny chessboard beside her. Evelyn sat by the window staring at the dark skyline. When a knock came at the door, she didn't flinch. It was Graham. "She's amazing," he said, softly stepping inside. "The whole chess world is talking about her." "I know," Evelyn replied. "That's what scares me." Graham looked puzzled. "Scares you? This could open every door for her. World-class education, international training, opportunities we never had." "That's just it," Evelyn said, turning toward him. "She's 8, and already the world wants a piece of her. Cameras, interviews, expectations. And then there's the one thing she wants more than any of that." Graham blinked. "What?" "The truth." They stood there for a long moment, tension thick between them. "Look at her, Graham," Evelyn said, her voice shaking. "She has your eyes, your mind. You're calm when things get complicated. She's your daughter." Graham sank slowly onto the couch, exhaling as if he'd been holding it in for years. "How long have you known I knew?" "Since the first time you offered to teach her chess," Evelyn replied. "You didn't do that for fun. You saw her. You recognized her." "I did," he whispered. "The moment she sat at that board, it was like seeing myself as a child, but brighter, more fearless." "Then why didn't you say anything?" Evelyn asked. "I didn't want to confuse her," he said, "or scare you. I thought if I came too close, too fast, I'd lose both of you all over again." Evelyn looked away, tears forming. "You didn't lose us, Graham. I left. I didn't think I was strong enough to raise her in your world. I didn't want her to grow up being a headline or a scandal. I just wanted her to be herself." Graham nodded. "And now, she deserves to know who that is." The next morning, Lila woke up to find her mother already dressed, sitting on the edge of the bed with red-rimmed eyes. "Mama, are you okay?" "We need to talk, baby," Evelyn said. "You and me and Mr. Whitaker." Lila's stomach twisted. When grown-ups said that, it usually meant bad news. In Graham's hotel suite, the three sat together. Graham, Evelyn, and the girl between them who had unknowingly brought them back into orbit. "Remember when you asked me about your father?" Evelyn began. Lila nodded. "Well, Dos, I wasn't completely honest." Evelyn reached into her purse and handed Lila the photo, the one she'd hidden in the kitchen that night. "This is your father." Lila looked at it closely. The young man beside her mother had kind blue eyes, gray hair just beginning to show, and a soft smile she knew well. "But that looks like it is Mr. Whitaker," Evelyn whispered. Lila's breath caught. She stared at the man beside her. "You're my daddy?" Graham slid down from the chair and knelt before her. "Yes, sweetheart. I've always been your father. I just didn't get the chance to say it until now." Lila looked back and forth between them, blinking rapidly. "But why didn't you tell me?" "Because we were scared," Evelyn admitted. "And wrong. You deserve the truth." Lila was quiet for a long moment, thinking like she did when solving tough chess puzzles. Finally, she said, "Can I still call you Mr. Whitaker?" Graham smiled gently. "Of course, you can call me anything that feels right." "Okay," she said softly, "but I want to keep playing chess with you every day." "Every single day," he said. "And one more thing," Lila added. "If you're my daddy and mama is my mama, does that mean we're a family now?" Evelyn and Graham looked at each other, uncertain but hopeful. "We're figuring that out," Evelyn said. "Well," Lila said with a shy smile, "maybe we can figure it out one move at a time." Graham reached out and held both their hands, like a new opening. "Exactly," Lila said. "We'll practice until we get it right." And just like that, they weren't three broken pieces anymore. They were beginning to move as one. The championship game room was buzzing with excitement. Reporters crowded outside, flashbulbs popped. Lila adjusted her sleeves nervously as she approached the final table. She wasn't just the youngest finalist in the tournament's history. She was now the girl who had taken the chess world by storm and quietly reunited a family that never should have broken in the first place. Her opponent, 16-year-old Mateo Cruz, was a rising star from California. Confident, sharp, already being groomed for the international circuit. He gave Lila a polite nod as she sat down. "Good luck," he said, offering a hand. "You too, Mahabige," Lila replied, shaking it with a steady grip. The room fell into silence as the match began. Mateo played fast and aggressive, but Lila had learned to play with something stronger than speed, vision. Her pieces moved in quiet harmony, like they had a rhythm only she could hear. A knight protected the queen. The rook slipped behind enemy lines. The bishop watched over the king like a trusted advisor. In the third hour of play, Lila saw a path. Risky, unexpected. The kind of move no computer would suggest. But her instinct whispered it was right. She sacrificed her queen. Gasps rippled through the audience. Even Graham and Evelyn tensed. But 3 moves later, check. 2 more, checkmate. Silence. Then thunderous applause. Lila blinked, stunned. She had won. The trophy was almost taller than she was. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted her name, but Lila's eyes searched for only 2 people. Her mother and her father, standing side by side, both crying. She ran into their arms. "You were brilliant," Evelyn whispered, holding her tight. "You played like a master," Graham added. "No," Lila said softly, "I played like myself." That night, instead of celebrating at a fancy hotel banquet, the 3 of them sat on the carpet of their small apartment, drinking hot cocoa and solving chess puzzles by the fire. Lila moved a rook, then smiled. "I like this one." Graham leaned over. "You missed a better move." "I didn't miss it," Lila smirked. "I just wanted to win with you this time." They all laughed. Later, as snow fell outside, Lila curled up on the couch between them. "You know, the best part of today wasn't winning." "Oh," Evelyn asked, "it was walking off that stage and seeing you both waiting for me." They hugged her tighter, and in that quiet moment, the game of life felt perfectly played.